This is Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast is here on this happy hour Friday as we take a look at some of their big concerns. It's the latest Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. And check out their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds for Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. Adam Caplan is here on this Friday edition. And, you know, a lot of concerns for every team, but some key concerns and issues for the Eagles as we get ready for training camp, which is about a month from our conversation today. Adam Caplan, how are you?
It is, yeah. The Eagles report on July 23rd. Now, you should know they don't do anything the first 5 days of note. You can't because there's the acclimation period, which came in really starting the 11 CBA. So you won't get, you know, in terms of training camp battles, it'll take at least a week to start seeing that. But, yeah, look, the heat is this, Mike, we're in for it with this heat. I mean, this is crazy what we're getting. We may not get rain here in Philly for at least 2 weeks. It's not good. But, hey, we're in the summer. It is what it is. It's good for baseball because, you know, there could be some home runs and but by the way, before we get started, I don't know if you saw I actually just watched them this afternoon, the Who Killed WCW on the Vice channel. Really good. I saw the parts 2 and 3, and part 4 comes this Tuesday. Really good. I enjoy that. For your listeners who like wrestling, who grew up with it like you and I did in the 80s and 90s, really good documentaries. Yep,
I'm up to speed. I'm up to all 3. I'm looking forward to the 4th one. On Tuesday night. I've been checking that all out. And, of course, that is Adam's entrance music is the NWO entrance music for our Football at 4 here. But, hey, let's play the villain here. What are some of the concerns for this Eagles team? You know, I would imagine at the top of that list you got a key guy on offense and a key guy on defense that are no longer here.
Yeah, look, that's part of the show that we dropped yesterday is on this. And it's really things that they don't really control, first of all. They don't control Kelsey, their starting center, a 6th-round pick in 2011, who's going to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame someday. He's now a broadcaster for ESPN. They don't control his retirement or Fletcher Cox's retirement, who has a real shot to make the Hall of Fame. They decided to go out together. Well, not. I mean, they went out the same year together. I mean, they both kind of knew it before the season started. This would be their last, and they did go through with their decision to retire, and it's a concern. There's no question. Cam Jurgens has not played a lot of center. Started 2 years at Nebraska. Hasn't had a chance to be a center yet in the National Football League, but they drafted him specifically to be Kelsey's replacement. It was not going to be Landon Dickerson. They never considered that. It was going to be Jurgens, and Jeff Stoughton's convinced it's going to work. The Eagles are convinced it's going to work. And, Mike, one thing about Cam Jurgens, and you know their history of extending contracts. If he plays well this season, you know they're going to go to him and his agency to extend his contract. So how he plays this season will play largely into whether he gets extension or not.
Yeah, and Jurgens, obviously, at that right guard last year. Now he goes and plays the position that they really drafted him for. We'll see if he can fill the shoes of Jason Kelsey. And, you know, Fletcher Cox, you mentioned on the other side of the ball, are Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter the definitive answers there, and are they ready to kind of fill what has been, you know, over a decade-long almost dominance at that position?
Yeah, look, in everything that Fletcher did, whether he played a 3, he's mostly a 3 technique, but he could play 5 and 7. In fact, if you might remember one year when the Eagles were playing a 43 front, he played a little bit of defensive end. So Jalen Carter is incredibly gifted. We never got a straight answer other than we know what the tape looked like. It wasn't very good. Carter's performance fell off the final quarter of the season. We don't know why it happened, which is what I'm getting at. But, again, there's nobody else here. They don't have any depth at defensive tackle. Moro Jones was not ready to be a starting player or to play 40 snaps a game if need be. Marlon Tuipulotu is right now they consider to be their top backup. 2 years ago, Mike, during their Super Bowl run, before he got hurt and was lost for the season, he was playing actually a lot of snaps. He's one of their better backup tackles, but that was it. He was not a factor last season. So it's got to be Jordan Davis, who's more of a one-position player or two-position player. But again, he's more of a nose. So these guys got to play well. They know what they got in Milton Williams, who, by the way, is eligible to be extended now if the Eagles want to do it. I don't know if Milton would do it because he could be headed for a big free agent payday somewhere else next year. But that's it. I mean, those are the guys who are going to fill in. And I like that they're young. This is something we're going to talk about on Mondays inside the Birds, a reason for optimism. A lot of it is youth-based, Mike. They're getting younger. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, Milton Williams is a guy that Jeff and I talked about yesterday. He went from 4 sacks 2 years ago to a half a sack last year. So he kind of took a step back last year. He was a guy that I was hopeful that could have taken, and he had over 100 more snaps last year than he did the year before. So Milton Williams will be an interesting guy to see if he can kind of regain that form that he had from 2 years ago. Speaking of regaining form, Adam Caplan, I guess the biggest question and concern and issue would be, can Jalen Hurts regain his from 2022?
Yeah, Mike, this is Jeff and I, we've outlined this on our shows the last couple of weeks, is, what happened with Hurts? Like, was it more scheme-based? Was it him? Processing, as we talked about this week, was a real problem. It sure as hell wasn't a problem 2 years ago. It's kind of weird how he held on the ball too long, indecisive. That's a processing issue. What we've said on Inside the Birds is this scheme is very quarterback-friendly under Kellen Moore. It's his scheme. He'll be running it, not Nick Sirianni. Sirianni have very little to do with the offense. They'll keep some stuff that Kellen Moore likes and Hurts likes, but it's Kellen Moore's show here on offense. And I'm expecting Hurts to bounce back. If he doesn't, and then we outline this on our contract show, Eagles can't really get out of his contract. There's some bad information out there. They really can't. There's triggers on his contract, like they've got these advance guarantees on his contract. Like not that they would ever cut him, but if 1 year, let's say they wanted to cut him, it's punitive. It'll kill their cap. There's a lot of guaranteed money. There's not any really good time for them to get out of it. It's just that there's a structure on this contract. They got a break on the guaranteed money at signing, but he got a major break on structure. They just need him to get back to where he was 2 years ago. He didn't have to play at that elite level, but he can't be a reason, Mike, and he was part of it, a reason why they didn't go for in the playoffs last season. So he's got to be better.
Yeah, we know that. Any feedback on how Moore's offense is being received early on yet in these OTAs? Like, are people? It sounded like some of the receivers like the more motion from reading some of that stuff. Have you hearing anything about how the players kind of receive this offense?
Nothing particular, but we have a great note where you're going to hear on Monday about Keenan Allen on how he felt about the Chargers offense last season. And his numbers, Mike, he had a bad injury which ended his season. His numbers, Mike, he might have, had he played all 17 games, this is insane. I'm not joking. There was a chance for him to put up 200 pass targets. 200 pass targets, Mike.
Yeah.
He was incredible in that offense. It's too bad that they got blitzed by injury. That Kellen Moore, by the way, I don't care how good their offense was going to be, he would not be back with Jim Harbaugh. Harbaugh does not run that type of system.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because many people have said if he was so good, why didn't the Chargers keep him? They changed the coach.
Nothing to do with it.
Right, they changed the coach.
Greg Roman will always be Harb's guy at the NFL level. They got the Super Bowl together. Greg Roman from Atlantic City, he's had some criticism because it was all about the run. Well, his run scheme's the most sophisticated in the National Football League. It's just not going to work. That's not what Harbs wants.
All right, let's look at, you mentioned Hurts. Can he regain his form? He's got two great receivers, but what about the rest of them?
Yeah, boy, this is a concern for me, the depth receiver. With Devontae Parker's sudden retirement, which is so bizarre, Mike, I don't remember a player retiring before OTA started. Like, that's one of the strangest retirement times. He released a statement that he wanted to be with his family. Hey, I'm all for that. That's a good thing. But just from a football standpoint, the timing is very odd. Why not do it right after the draft or right before the draft? Neither happened. So right now, Paris Campbell, who got benched with the Giants last season, he is their third receiver. He doesn't have any competition for it. He'll be the main backup for Devontae Smith. He'll also be their probably lead to be their slot. And the slot receiver is important in this offense because they're primarily a three-receiver offense under Kellen Moore. So, look, they're going to have to add another receiver veteran at some point. Doesn't have to be now. Doesn't have to be the start of training camp. But by the start of the regular season, they're going to have to do something. And, Mike, if Paris Campbell gets hurt in training camp, They got we didn't even talk about that, but we'll talk about it now. They got a major problem. They don't know who would be his backup. They don't have that guy right now. So he's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I would imagine, Adam, that they're going to be scouring camps and cuts to see what happens in training camp at that position.
Yeah, in fact, for the Patreon members, I know there's some Patreon members we have. Patreon.com/InsideTheBirds who are listening. We put up our list of what you just talked about. Best available street free agents for receiver. It's not a very good list. There are a lot of slot receivers. They don't need a slot receiver right now. I mean, it wouldn't hurt, but that's not what they need. Anai Smith is really a slot receiver, so it's not good. But you make a good point. They could just wait to see who gets cut. Look, the Eagles have done this before. Teams will do that, and it's certainly a buyer's market. The problem is there's really not. It's just not a great list. There's always a reason why these guys are on the street right now.
Let's go to that safety, and is Bradbury a part of this? When you talk about the safety depth, do you include him in that? And I would imagine if you're looking at concerns, that safety depth has got to be up there.
Yeah, I mean, look, he got snaps in OTAs before he got hurt. I don't know how many he got, but as I understand, he got some. He was going to get snaps had he not gotten hurt. We don't even know what the injury was. We know it's soft tissue. We don't know exactly what it is. Yeah, their plan is to cross-train him, to have him play corner and safety, and we'll see what it looks like at training camp, Mike. It's right now, so you've got Gardner Johnson, really terrific player, big injury history. Reed Blankenship, concussion issues. Let's hope it doesn't continue to happen, but is an okay starter. After that, C.D. Brown, as I keep telling people, it's not a question whether he'll be ready week one, but how effective could he be if he's missing all of training camp or most of it? The sadness of him getting hurt, Mike, he was doing so well, I'm told, before he got hurt, before he had the ACL injury, so we don't know what he's going to look like. And that's really Andre Sam's an undrafted free agent. Tristan McCollum's barely played. He's more of a fourth or fifth safety. Mekhi Garner is more of a fourth safety. And of course, now Vontae Maddox could certainly do it. They had him doing an OTA. So, Mike, it's not great. Like, they probably need to add another safety. They don't need two of them. They need one more guy. Whereas at corner, they got too many guys. Like last summer, I told everyone, be careful saying they have too many corners. They don't. They don't have enough good ones. Corner's not a problem, though. They're feeling pretty good about the talent level there. But safety, Mike, is an issue right now.
One corner we were talking about yesterday because somebody found Zach McPherson and had him on a podcast, and he had a couple interesting things to say. But his name is never mentioned in that group. Is he a guy that is not in the running to make this team?
Oh, Zach McPherson?
Yeah.
Well, we reported last summer that the word around the team was that was going to be they wanted to see him show that he could be on the roster more than a special teams player. They didn't draft him to be a special teams player. Like, you don't draft a guy in the fourth round to be only special teams. That's not the way it works. Like a sixth or seventh round pick, maybe you could get away with it.
Sure.
But not in the fourth round. You have to compete for a job. And that's why they wanted to cross-train him inside, and he never, I think they started doing it, and then he got hurt. He tore his Achilles. Right. So, yeah, I've never heard any talk about safety. We'll see if they cross-train him. I've not heard that. But he's a guy, Mike, that has teams value, no question. Before he got hurt, he was one of the best special teams players. But now, Mike, at slot corner, Maddox, of course. Rodgers really has not played slot. He did very little with the Colts. Only when Kenny Moore got hurt did he play inside. Now, long-term, team slot, because of his body frame, 175 to 180, he was going to have to eventually only play slot because he's too small. Well, the Eagles aren't there yet. Right now, he's an outside corner. But your slot corners, they've got DeJean could do it and probably will. Tyler Hall that's really what he is, and the Eagles really like him. He had some good snaps. The Raiders inside. Parry Nickerson, who they just signed last week, was in their OTAs. He could do it. Sean Stevens can do it. So, Mike, they no longer have a problem at slot. And outside, the Eagles are loaded at corner. That's not a problem for them, and they're really happy now with Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers as key backups. So, I don't know with Zach. I don't know. He's all of a sudden they have overglut at slot and outside. It's going to be hard for him to answer your question, Mike. It's going to be hard for him to make it. Wouldn't rule it out. And the problem is he's coming off a major injury. I know he's healthy now, and he got very limited snaps in OTAs. He's going to have a great training camp to make it.
Adam Caplan, they have their concerns. The podcast is out. Check it out at InsideTheBirds.com and wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget the YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds. Adam, thanks, buddy. We'll talk to you next week, pal.
Sounds good. Then.
All right. He'll be back for Football at 4 on Tuesday here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.